Some stories begin with a whisper, a memory that slips through the cracks of a quiet night. What you're about to hear isn't from a book or a movie. It's a confession. A woman who swore she'd never be fooled again until the truth found its way to her door. Sealed with red lipstick. They say photographs can capture a soul. But what happens when the camera catches something that shouldn't exist? This is her story. And if you listen closely, really closely, you might hear your own reflection whisper back, the envelope. With my husband's face, I used to think I could tell when someone was cheating, that there were signs, the late replies, the sudden arguments, the quiet phone calls taken in another room. I'd been cheated on before, and I'd learned one thing. Cheaters always try to share the guilt. They pick fights to convince themselves the relationship was doomed long before they crossed the line. So when I married Daniel, I promised myself I'd recognize it if it ever happened again. I'd know. At least that's what I thought. Daniel was different, stable, predictable. He woke up at 6 every morning, ran 3 miles, cooked breakfast for both of us, then shaved while humming the same old jazz tune. He kissed me goodbye, left for work at 8, and was home by 6:30. Every day, without fail. If you'd asked me then whether I trusted him, I'd have said yes without hesitation. But trust has a way of crumbling in silence. It started with the envelope, a thick one sealed with red lipstick. No return address. Just 5 words written in careful cursive. You need to see this. Inside were Polaroid photographs, old-fashioned grainy, but clear enough. And there he was, Daniel, naked, in bed with a woman I didn't recognize. Her face was blurred, turned away from the camera. But it was him. The mole near his jaw, the scar on his shoulder from when he fell off his bike as a kid. Everything matched. My first thought wasn't anger. It was confusion. Where would he even find the time? He worked 9 hours a day, 2 of them at the office, the rest from home. He called me during lunch. He cooked dinner with me every night. There wasn't a single gap in our routine long enough to hide something like this. I didn't confront him that night. If he was acting, then I would act too. I'd smile, I'd kiss him goodnight, and in the morning, I'd start finding the truth. For the next few days, I played detective. I called his office pretending to be a florist. I asked the receptionist what time would be best to deliver flowers. "Oh, Daniel, he's always at his desk," she said, "except maybe 20 minutes at lunch. So if he was seeing someone, it had to be during those 20 minutes, in and out. Quick, too quick for a real affair." I even considered the possibility of an escort. Half an hour cash, no strings attached. But something about that didn't fit either. He didn't act guilty. He didn't act different at all. If anything, he was more affectionate. Maybe that's what scared me the most, that he could hold me so tenderly, knowing exactly what he'd done. And then I looked closer at the photos. That's when I noticed something strange. The woman, her body type was familiar. Same hair color, same build, same skin tone. The more I stared, the more I felt sick. She looked like me, not just similar, identical. Every little detail, down to the small freckle just above my left hip. But her face was always obscured by her hair, by a shadow, by the angle of the camera. It didn't make sense. I told myself it had to be some kind of cruel prank. Maybe someone had photoshopped them. But they were Polaroids, real, physical. You can't fake those so easily. For days, I barely slept. Daniel noticed I was quiet and distracted. He asked if I was feeling sick. I told him I was fine. Inside, I was unraveling. And then one morning, while scrolling through Google Maps, I recognized something, a building behind the woman in one of the photos. A row of houses, one of them with a broken attic window. I zoomed in. There it was, a real place, just 20 minutes from our home. I needed to see it for myself. It was a grey afternoon when I drove there. The house looked worse in person, peeling paint, an open front door swaying gently in the wind. The yard was a jungle of weeds and garbage. No sign of life. Still, one of the windows matched the photo perfectly. That was the living room, where he'd been with her. I sat in the car for an hour waiting. No one came or went. Finally, I got out. I don't remember deciding to go inside. It just happened. The hinges screamed as I nudged the door open. Inside, the air was thick with mold and rot. Dust covered everything, but there were no signs of squatters. No bottles, no trash. It looked like a house frozen in time. Like someone had lived here once and then vanished. I recognized the couch from the photo. Same fabric, same pattern. But in the picture, it had been clean. Here, it was covered in years of grime. A chill went through me. Something wasn't right. Upstairs, the first bedroom was sealed with yellow police tape, torn and hanging like cobwebs. I pushed the door open and almost threw up. The mattress was shredded, soaked with old brown stains. Blood everywhere. Walls sealing the floor. It looked like someone had been butchered here. And for the first time, I understood. This wasn't just an affair. This was something else. Something terrible. That's when I heard it. A laugh, high-pitched girlish, echoing down the stairs. It froze my blood. I turned. There at the top of the staircase stood a woman, thin, barefoot, hair long and wet, clinging to her face. Her head tilted slightly to one side, lips stretched into a smile too wide for her face. And God help me, she looked just like me. For a long moment, we just stared at each other. Then she spoke in a voice that didn't belong to her. "Excuse me," she said. But it wasn't her voice. It was mine. Every word, every inflection perfectly copied. I stumbled back, heart slamming in my chest. She moved down one step, then another, head twitching, still smiling. I saw her hands hidden behind her back. Something inside me broke. I ran. Out the door, into the daylight, down the street to my car. I didn't stop until I was home. When I burst through the front door, the house was empty. No Daniel, no sound. But there was something on the kitchen counter. Another envelope, red lipstick, same handwriting. This one said, "You need to see what your wife is up to." Inside were more Polaroids, almost identical to the first ones. Except now the man's face was hidden, and the woman's face was perfectly clear. Mine. I don't mean it looked like me. It was me. The same scar on my knee, the same freckle on my hip, the same expression of guilt and pleasure. My phone buzzed. A message from Daniel. "I need a few days to process this. Please don't look for me." I called him over and over. He didn't answer. When he finally did, it wasn't a call. It was a voice message. He sounded broken. He said he couldn't understand what had happened to me, that he'd gotten photos, proof, that he needed time to think. I screamed until my throat hurt. I'd been framed, played like a puppet. Whoever that woman was, she'd taken everything from me. I barely remember the days that followed. The house felt wrong, empty. Every noise made me flinch. Then one night, I heard footsteps upstairs. Slow, careful. I thought maybe Daniel had come home early. But when I called his name, there was no reply. I grabbed a knife from the kitchen. The air felt heavier with every step toward the staircase. Then I saw it. A pale hand curling around the top step. 4 fingers, perfectly still. I froze. Then her face appeared. My face. That same smile. That same lifeless stare. "What do you want?" I whispered. She tilted her head, the same way I'd seen her do before, and repeated the words back to me in my own voice. "What do you want?" I didn't wait. I ran. Pain exploded in my leg. She'd stabbed me. I felt blood soaking the floor. Still, I crawled toward the front door. Somehow, I got it open. The last thing I remember is the sound of sirens. When I woke up, I was in a hospital bed. My leg was bandaged, my head throbbing. A nurse told me the police had found me bleeding on the kitchen floor. They thought it was a break-in gone wrong. They said my jewelry and clothes were missing. But I knew better. She'd taken them. She wanted to become me. When the officer finished his questions and left, I lay back exhausted. Morning light filled the room. And then I heard a voice. "Hello," it said softly. "Daniel." Relief washed over me. He was here. I turned to look at him, but he was facing away, standing still. "Daniel," I whispered. "Thank God you're here." He didn't move, didn't answer. Then, in a trembling voice, he said, "Who are you?" My heart dropped. "Daniel, it's me," I said. He cut me off with a scream. Not a human scream. A deep tearing sound that rattled the walls. And when he finally turned around, I saw his face. Eyes bloodshot, skin pale. That same twisted grin, and something dark moving behind his teeth. He stared at me and whispered, "What are you?" The nurses rushed in. They didn't see him. They only saw me hysterical, bleeding again, reaching for someone who wasn't there. As they pinned me down, I saw Daniel, or what was left of him, walking out of the room. And I realized with a sickening clarity that the voice he'd spoken with, it was my own. It's been 3 days since they let me go. I'm home again now. The house feels empty, but not quiet. Sometimes I swear I hear footsteps upstairs. Sometimes I catch a glimpse of movement in the mirror, not behind me, but in place of me. And this morning, when I checked the mailbox, there was another envelope. Red lipstick, no address. Inside, one single Polaroid. My husband, smiling. And next to him, someone who looked exactly like me. Except this time, neither of us were looking at the camera. We were both looking at you. If you ever find an unmarked envelope in your mailbox, maybe don't open it. Maybe burn it and forget it ever arrived. Because some proof isn't meant to be seen, and some faces aren't meant to be recognized. She thought she was uncovering a lie. But what she found was something far older. A hunger that wears. Your skin speaks with your voice and smiles for the camera. Thank you for listening to NightLore. Sleep well tonight. And if you can't just remember, sometimes the sound you hear downstairs isn't the house settling. Sometimes it's you.